name is Marie Considine. I'm the Executive Director with NAMI Westchester, and I'm happy to welcome you all here tonight. It's so nice to be in person. I'm glad that we had rain and not snow so that we could have this here tonight. Thank you to the VFW for hosting us, and Andrea Molina, who's our board member, who's a member here, that she was able to host us, so thank you. Thank you to our panelists who are here tonight. I know we're going to have a great event. Sharon Maschivecchio has planned a great night for us. So I just want to introduce you a little bit to NAMI Westchester. We have brochures on the table outside. If you haven't picked one up, please do. You'll see that we have a few things of importance. We have a helpline, so people can call with any kinds of questions, whether it's about our programs and services that we have for people, education programs, support programs, but even a question about housing or about mental health court or about all different things. We have a judge here tonight, Judge Medina from Yonkers, so thanks for coming. Thanks. You'll see, if you open the brochure, on the top left, there's a program called NAMI Homefront, and that's a 6-week program currently offered virtually, and that's an educational program for families, caregivers, and friends of people who are in the military. We would like to offer one locally and in person at some point. One of our board members, Marianne Walsh, is here, and she's been trained. So the more volunteers we have, the more programs that we can do. So this describes lots of our programs. I'll point out one other thing is on the back. We do have an annual walk, so it's a great way to get involved, show your support for mental health. So that this year will be held on Saturday, May 14th, and it'll be at Ridge Road Park in Hartsdale, and that's where NAMI Westchester with the Westchester County Department of Community Mental Health and a few other organizations are creating a garden of remembrance for people who have died by suicide, so their family members have a nice calm place to come and sit and reflect. So that will be kind of the grand opening in September. So between now and then we're doing fundraising and we're getting the process moving. So our walk there in May will walk right by that spot, and our walk is a really nice event, so I hope you can join us. Our president, Louise Ellis, is here tonight, and I know that she'll speak to a little later. So right now I'll hand off to Sharon Maschivecchio.
Hello, my name is Sharon Maschivecchio. My glasses on so I can read. I have the privilege of introducing Sal. Sal Gonzalez was born and raised in East Los Angeles, California, where he kept himself out of trouble by playing music and working at the family restaurant in his spare time. He was inspired by the events of 9/11, and Sal joined the United States Marine Corps Infantry right out of high school. But in 2004, while serving as a machine gunner in Iraq, Sal was wounded, and when he came home, Wounded Warrior Project met him at his hospital bedside and helped him realize anything was possible. He turned that concept into a career that spans his two greatest passions, music and helping other veterans. Today, Sal lives in Nashville, Tennessee, where he writes and performs music, and he has appeared on America's Got Talent and the TV show Nashville, and he released his first EP, Heroes, in 2020. When he's not playing music, Sal can usually be found helping other wounded warriors by sharing his story and teaching them that they too can still achieve their dreams. Please help me in welcoming Sal from the Wounded Warrior Project.
Well, I kind of feel I'm loud enough. I don't think I need the mic. Does anybody disagree? Thank you, Marine Corps Boot Camp, for giving me the lung capacity to be able to give this speech. Set 5. I'm going to step out in front because I like attention. So, like Sharon said, my name is Sal Gonzalez, and I joined the United States Marine Corps. But prior to that, I had no inkling of joining the military. I've been a dirty hippie musician my entire life. I've been singing since I could speak. I've been playing guitar since I was 12 and interested in girls. It never helped me get a girlfriend. And that was my path through life until September 11th, 9/11, 2001. I was in English class when I watched the Twin Towers fall. And I knew my country was gonna go to war. Now I know with a last name like Gonzalez, you can't tell that both of my parents are of immigrant descent, but both of them are. Both of them immigrated to this country. They met here, fell in love, had me, and then got married, which I'm still a little peeved off about, but you know, it is what it is. And so they instilled a love for this country in me, like no other. Both of my sisters got academic scholarships to the colleges of their choice because they're smart. I didn't because I'm not. So as soon as I was old enough, I wanted to go do my part. I wanted to go give back to the country that had given me and my family so much. So as soon as I was old enough, I raised my right hand and I went and I joined the United States Marine Corps on October 21st of 2003. That date becomes important. I went off to boot camp, became a Marine, learned how to shoot, did all the fun stuff, went to the School of Infantry, became a machine gunner, and later got sent to 2nd Battalion, 5th Marines, the most decorated battalion in the Marine Corps. Not because of anything I ever did, but because we stand on the shoulders of giants. A little less than a year later, I found myself in Ramadi, Iraq. I was the lead machine gunner in my platoon, and it was my job to look out for bombs. I was bad at it. I was in Iraq for 2 months, and in those 2 months, I got blown up 7 times. Remember I said I was bad at it? It's okay to laugh if I'm the one making the jokes, folks. 7 times. 6 of those times, they were doing good to scratch my paint. Blow up a tire, which made me real angry because I was low man on the totem pole, and guess who had to change the Humvee tires? And anybody that served will tell you those things are heavy. My life changed on October 31st of 2004. For those of us who are counting, that's 1 year and 10 days after I enlisted. We were driving a convoy going from one part of the city to another little place called Ramadi, Iraq. Has anybody ever been? Anybody ever heard of it? I don't recommend it. There was this small part of the city where there was a roundabout. It was the most beautiful part of the city. It had a flower bed. It was purple and yellow, and it was one of the only places in the city that anybody ever even remotely kept up. And as we drove by it on Halloween, it went boom. And I woke up inside the Humvee. Now this was new. Again, I'd been blown up 6 times before this. Kind of felt like I knew what I was doing. So when I woke up inside, I knew it was going to be different. I reached back up on my machine gun, because like any good machine gunner, what the bad guys were doing was they would attack one of our vehicles, disable it, and then as we were trying to get the wounded out, they would attack again to create more casualties. So I reached back up and I tried to get back up on my machine gun, and all my upper body worked, but when I tried to bend my leg, the left one bent in a way that it normally didn't, and I knew that I was going to have a bad day. So I laid back down, and I did what Marines do best. Let the Navy take care of them. Daculata is a Filipino-American. A lot of Marines had a real hard time understanding him, but he talked a lot like my mom, so me and him no problems. I'm pretty sure he accidentally shot one of us one day, but he saved my life that day, and I love that man. His name was Daculata. They pulled me out of the Humvee, popped me full of morphine, because my leg was in tatters, and I highly recommend morphine if your leg's ever that injured. I went from agonizing pain to high-fiving my friends, telling them I'd be back in 20 minutes. They took me to a field hospital and put me on a helicopter, and I fell asleep. And when I woke up, I was surrounded by my parents and my siblings, and I had a couple questions for them, namely, what the heck are you guys doing in Iraq? And where's my rifle? Marine never goes anywhere unarmed. And they said, calm down. You're in Bethesda, Maryland. You've been in a coma for a week. Both of your lungs collapsed. You almost died a couple of times, but you're here. You're safe. And we got you. And even though they didn't have a weapon, they did bring my battle axe. My guitar. This constant companion since I was 14 years old. best friend, confidant, let's face it, girlfriend. And it was a great comfort having it. Unfortunately, when you go into a coma for a week, all of your muscles atrophy. And so you can't play guitar no matter how much you want to flirt with that cute nurse who keeps coming by. I swear to God, I'm good. It was in the hospital that I first got introduced to Wounded Warrior Project. A gentleman wearing a polo a lot like mine walked in and handed me a backpack. And in this backpack were what they call comfort items. T-shirts, underwear, socks, which now last me twice as long as you folks. One of the many benefits of losing a leg, no sock laundry. I put them in the laundry. If one gets lost, I only wear one at a time anyway. Last me twice as long as everybody else. I don't know. There's just a lot of, you gotta look at the upside, folks. It was fun in the hospital, being there with my brothers and sisters. It was real easy to have a good attitude and get better because everybody was hurt and everybody was injured. It wasn't until I retired and I went home that I started falling into bad behaviors. And it was mostly because survivor's guilt. You know, I was only in Iraq for 2 months. The rest of my guys were there 7. In the 2 months that I was there, we had 3 killed in action, and since I left, there was 8 total in my unit. Those are my guys I knew that I saw on a daily basis, hugged. I knew their kids, I knew their wives. And I didn't have a very high opinion of myself. So it was really easy to fall into these extracurricular activities that were so common in my industry. What are musicians known for? What are rock stars known for? Partying. Thank you very much. Yes, that is exactly what they're known for. So that's what I did. And I did it, and I lost way too many years to doing that than I'd like to admit. But one day, an organization came to me and they said, hey, do you want to go on this thing called Soldier Ride? It's just one of the programs that the Warrior Project has. They put me on a bicycle with 30 other veterans, and we rode from Little Rock, Arkansas to Nashville, Tennessee. And on this ride, I started realizing that all of these other people that were going through the exact same things that I had gone through were doing the exact same things that I was doing, moving thousands of miles away from their family, isolating from themselves, self-medicating with things that maybe you shouldn't be doing. We were all going through the same things, and that a little Marine in me woke up and said, it's not just you. You're not that special little snowflake you thought you were. And that's when I started trying to do anything I could. I played any charity they would have me, for children, for veterans, for dogs. You got left-handed guinea pigs that need a wheelchair bought for them. My goodness, I'm your man. Just any good that I could do with my music, and that snowballed into this crazy, crazy job where I get to go around the country and talk to you folks about this wonderful organization. When I was still in the hospital, they taught me how to whitewater raft and rock climb after I lost a leg. It's a weird phone call to get. You know I'm missing a leg, right? You're not just trying to play a game with Hangman? Is it an A? I guess that joke sucked. Anyway, I learned confidence from these things that has carried on through the rest of my life. I teach little kids how to strangle creepers. I'm a black belt in mixed martial arts. I'm a blue belt in jiu-jitsu. And none of that would be possible had I not originally done these things with the organization. It was Wounded Warrior Project. I can tell you all the different things they do, from helping veterans get jobs, to helping them navigate the VA, to helping them lose weight. I could give you all of the nuts and bolts, but none of them really tell stories, and tell stories that make an impact, right? They don't really tell you what we do. I was in West Virginia talking to folks, and I saw this young lady walk up to me and she said, my mom is a veteran and she wants to talk to you. And I said, okay. This lady walked up to me who was about the same age as I was and told me about her 2 tours in Afghanistan and her 1 tour to Iraq, and how her husband was a civilian and didn't understand her, and how her kids couldn't connect. She couldn't connect with her kids because she'd been through all this crazy stuff. And she said that she wanted to go home and end her life that day. And I put her on the phone with people at Wounded Warrior Project who are trained to deal with mental health while we're all here. And I'm proud to say that that young lady still has a mom to go home to. That's what Wounded Warrior Project does. So, and it's not because of, I just noticed, right? I'm not trained in anything. I just noticed a cry for help, and I put her on the phone with somebody that could. I'm not saying that for my benefit in any way, shape, or form. It's just, I love that about this organization. Considering 22 veterans a day commit suicide, it's, I thank everybody for being here and being passionate about it. So, you guys want a song that's gonna make you cry, or you want to, or you want a happy song?
Both. Start the sad song.
They threw him a party the day that he got home. Oh, and they called him a hero, but he felt all alone, surrounded by his family and all his friends but one. Oh, he lost him in that country to a buried roadside bomb. When his dad stood up and said, our hero has returned, he looked down at his scars and his purple heart and said, Dad, you know that hurts. 'Cause that told me to not sound grateful, 'cause the good Lord knows I am, for sparing me my life on the day he took my friend. But I still wish that I had gone with him, maybe even took his place. Oh, but destiny didn't lead me that way. So I'm not trying to say you're wrong. Heroes ain't the ones who make it home. He said Danny had a daughter that he'll never get to see. And I know that he was proud that he was only 23. And they gave me this medal, pinned it on my uniform. But this piece of tin don't mean a thing, no, if they can't bring them home. So I told me to not sound grateful, 'cause the good Lord knows I am, for sparing me my life on the day he took my friend. But I still wish that I had gone with him, maybe even took his place. Oh, but destiny didn't lead me that way. So I'm not trying to say you're wrong. Heroes ain't the ones who make it home. Not sound grateful, 'cause the good Lord knows I am, for sparing me my life on the day he took my friends. But I still wish that I'd gone with him, every day I'd take their place. Oh, but destiny didn't lead me that way. So I'm not trying say you're wrong, maybe just a little bit. 'Cause heroes ain't the ones who make it home. Questions, comments, concerns, death threats. And, ladies and gentlemen, that's been my time. My name is Sal Gonzalez. Thank you so much. Thank you.
So, Sal, if it's okay,
Yeah.
we're gonna have you join the
Let's
panel
go.
up here, and we'll have people answer questions. If you folks would come on up. We have, find your names. Al.
I'll be
Yeah, Joe. So the floor is open for questions. Please feel free. You know, Sal has a lot to offer. Let me introduce everybody. We have here Matthew Riga from NYP. Alan,
give it a check.
thank you. The Vet Center. Joe Hunt, who is now with Sierra Club. You know Sal now. Andrew Molina, who with Family Services Westchester, and this is her BFW here. And Marion Walsh with Blue Star Mothers, and Andrea and Marion are part of the NAMI board. And I kind of rushed through that, but please use them. Questions?
Yes.
Hey, Sal, all over here, buddy. Thanks for coming in, speaking to everybody. Thank everybody on the panel. How about your music career, man? You got a purpose, you got a talent.
Thank you.
I've heard you. Do you have any CDs, anything, or on Spotify, Apple?
Everything.
You're
Spotify, Apple
everywhere.
Music, all that. I got no CDs, but you can buy them on Amazon if you want.
Are you continuing to pursue that? I mean,
Yeah, I'm continue. I always. I'll do that for the rest of my life, whether I make a dime at it
yeah.
or not. It's who I am. I've had a guitar literally be my constant companion since I was 14. It's not going to change, and I'm going to keep singing until you guys boo me off the stage. So it's up to you guys to end it for me.
In your experience, what is your best way you think that a veteran would open up as far as mental health? You know, we understand the stigma, we understand some guys want to get a job and having that attachment, whatever it is, depression, anxiety, PTSD. What do you think? And it's obviously a $1 million question, but what would you say would be the best way to approach a veteran?
It depends on where the veteran is in their cycle of rehabilitation, right? Like if they're a rock star, if they're somebody who's further along like myself, who's been through a lot, who's had a lot of mental health, who's been through a lot of therapy and stuff like that. I've done a ton of therapy. It's the only reason I can get up here and still be able to tell my story without halfway dying. So somebody like me, I'm probably not going to want to take resources away from other veterans. That's what I find mostly with veterans who are like me. They're like, I don't want to take any resources from my brothers or sisters who need it. And it's like, well, you're part of that too, dude. Like, you need to take advantage of these. So the way I normally get them, I backdoor them in, is I tell them, well, if you're doing so good, we have a peer support program in the Wounded Warrior Project that will put you with another veteran that's maybe not doing so good, and you can help them get on their path to rehabilitation. So that's kind of the sneaky way I do it with guys who say or gals who say I don't need help, which I run into a lot. But I think more importantly than anything, you just got to reach the veteran on what they enjoy doing, be that a sport, or I do a lot of stuff with music, songwriting, that kind of thing. So, does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Can I comment on that?
Yeah, I was gonna say you can all
Yeah, so
share.
I'm a social worker by training, and we start where the client is at, so we start where the person is at, and I think, kind of what Sal mentioned, depends on where they are in their journey, what they need. Like you mentioned, it could be like a job. At the vet center, we ask them what they need, and sometimes they just come in for a cup of coffee, maybe a job referral, need to know what their educational benefits are. Some people, some vets, service members, they don't know what benefits they can have. So we start with that. And then, you know, I think also what I heard Sal say is that some veterans, they don't want to take resources away from someone else. I hear that all the time. And I said, well, you count too, and everyone's got issues, and we can work on everything. But I think you really have to kind of slow down and see, you know, find what the carrot is for somebody. Everybody needs something, right? And part of the vet center program that I'm at, you know, we try to be very slow, start slow. What is it that you need? What brought you through the door? It's always something.
We get a lot of people that come to our clinic. We have a free clinic at Presbyterian for military, family members, veterans, you know, everybody. And it's a kind of like fill the gaps that the VA doesn't cover, but also some people don't want to use the VA facilities, right? And being around other veterans might be part of the issue, whatever. So we have that, you know. But one of the things I like to do is try to encourage them to get their benefits if they qualify for benefits, even if they're leery about getting involved with the VA, because all those things, you know, the numbers count, and the government funds the VA based on the numbers and the utilization of the programs. So if you're a veteran and you're not using the program, and you're not registered with the VA, you're not helping other veterans by, you know, not counting and raising your hand so that the funding is there to help these other veterans if they do need it. So that's something that's, you know, kind of worth mentioning too.
It's a great argument.
I love that.
I love it.
No, here's another argument. I'm a Vietnam veteran. When I turned 50, I realized that some of my prescription costs were going up, and I went to the VA, and I discovered that only because I was in an area where there was Agent Orange would they allow me to have a health card. It makes great sense for everyone to register with the VA, even if they don't intend to use it, because the VA changes its criteria several years after you've rotated out of service, so that you have the card and you have access to the benefits. My wife is jealous every time I rattle the pill bottle that shows up in the mail, and I didn't have to go anywhere. And the first time I went to the VA, and the woman said to me, you have to get a scan and you have to give blood. And I said, well, who do I talk to about that? She said, you're in the system. And she said, go down and get to the first floor. I said, do they know I'm coming? I mean, I'm used to the doctor handing me you have to get an x-ray. I have to go call that lab, and then 2 months later, I'm gonna get an x-ray. So, no matter how young you are or how much you may not think the VA is for you, get the card, because when you get older, there are a lot of benefits available.
I think it's important for veterans not to forget the person that saved my life was another veteran, and I was in the Marine Corps. Semper Fi. And it was it was an Army, an old.
Don't be jealous.
Yeah. Haters are gonna hate.
Oh.
It was an old parade that saved my life, right? So it's a different branch of service.
Yep.
Different era. But that man saved my life. And I began to normalize everything that was wrong with myself. And then he felt comfortable talking about what was really wrong with himself. And then he said, this is why I know that you're in a bad place, and this is where you need to get help. And I think that if we start getting rid of stigma and people start opening up and telling their story, it's gonna inspire others to tell their story. And then perhaps you could lead the way. Lead the way? Yeah. Okay. So you can lead the way back to obtaining services, whether it's the VA, and like Mr. Riley said, use it or lose it, basically, right? And we definitely have to use our services, whether it's the VA or any other nonprofit that's willing to assist veterans. Very important. Might be saving a life.
Yeah, no, I agree with Andrea, and I think the question was on how to help the person recognize that they may need help with a mental health condition. And the service, everyone is stoic, and no one wants to admit it. I know that my son's in the military, he's a combat medic, and my father is in the military, and it's part of the mentality of being stoic and strong, and you don't want to admit weakness, and that part has to change, and we have to be part of that solution, I think, and that's hard to do, and that's really hard to do. So But on Homefront, we kind of learn on NAMI training how to help family members address the needs, and I think service people and people like Sal can talk to others about how to take that first step, and maybe the counselors, or maybe you're not going for mental health counseling, maybe you're going for a walk with a friend, maybe you're doing something, maybe you're hiking and joining a group, and maybe that's how you open up. And then you take it step by step. So, but it's very important to keep having that discussion, and so people know help's out there, and know how to get it, exactly. Thank you.
You know, obviously, folks, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Obviously, there's no one-size-fits-all answer to that question. For 6 years, I was the director of the Veterans Mental Health Coalition in New York City. And my job was really to educate providers to pay attention to people in their office. And when someone who was late for appointments or didn't make it to their employment interview, instead of thinking them to be a pain in their ass, recognizes that a symptom could be a symptom, and if it's persistent, have a conversation. So our job is really to teach people to be aware of these kind of things that were perhaps annoying to them, but see them as signs of discomfort, and then have start a conversation. The biggest problem for most people, I think, and most people, including me, is when someone is in distress. It takes a lot of courage to address that person, and you need some training to know how to handle yourself and that circumstance. I went through the Preventa's training, and I think the biggest thing I've learned from that program was not to tell anyone what to do, even if the person tells me I was out drinking all night last night and I do it every week, until I've developed a relationship with that veteran and they trust me to share some stories with me. And as a member of the Veterans Treatment Court and a mentor in White Plains, that's worked so well for me with veterans who are addicted to alcohol and narcotics.
Got a couple other questions.
You wanted a question?
Yeah, I have a question. So, one thing that you kind of touched on was like the healthcare system and like with the VA, and I was wondering, like, I know that it can be very complex to navigate. So how is like the best way to go about supporting someone to access the benefits and things like that? I was a military spouse for 10 years, and it's so difficult to like access certain things and get information, and people will know things and they don't share. So how, like, what's the best way to go about like supporting someone in that?
I can only speak on the Wounded Warrior Project side of it, but we have a whole benefits team that's their entire job, is helping veterans navigate the VA, get appointments, make appeals, do all the different things that the VA, that you need to do to navigate the red tape that is the VA. So I got a phone call this morning from one of my brothers who said, hey, they're messing with my money, something's going on, and now I need help. And all I did was have them contact the benefits team and start the appeals process. That's the best way I know to do it, but that only works with post 9/11 veterans, because that's all we serve.
Andrea or Alan, can you add to that?
The only thing I could say is we're fortunate enough, because not all veteran service offices work. Some of them are just a facade. But if you're fortunate enough to have a veteran service office near you that actually operates, you're supposed to have enough knowledge to guide you through those benefits or connect you to the person that can. And another thing for myself as a veteran, if I'm confused, I'll call the benefits hotline and ask for clarification. It doesn't always work, but it's worth a try, at least from my perspective and my experience. I know what Alan may
Yeah,
have.
I think that's a common problem. Like, there's veterans who have no idea they're eligible for services, healthcare. What we've done is, if you call the vet center, we have someone help you enroll. Just kind of hold hand and give directions how to do it. Usually, if you call the hospital, ask for eligibility, you can enroll. They'll send you a form, send it back, but we can kind of help you with that. I'm pretty confident if you call anyone who's on this panel, we can help you out with that. So we all work together.
Thank you.
I'll just add that before I worked for Presbyterian, I worked for the VA hospital, and I still had somebody else do all my paperwork. So, find yourself an organization that specializes, whether it's a vet center or a DAV or Wounded Warriors or whoever. Find an organization that knows all the little back streets and sideways, and they'll get you hooked up.
Thank you.
Can I also just add, I worked for the VA for over 40 years, and one of the good things, and it's not really that much of a secret, but it is a fact, and that is that there is much less utilization of VA hospitals in places like Hudson Valley or the Bronx or Manhattan than in a place like North Carolina or Texas or California, and that really should be to your advantage in terms of there shouldn't be waiting lists, there shouldn't be the same difficulty that someone would have in applying. So I urge you to use any of these organizations that help you, and hopefully that shouldn't be as difficult. I mean, sort of that's to your advantage. It should. There isn't a long time to wait for an appointment. There isn't a great backlog of individuals trying to get on, like there may be in places where there are many individuals who are leaving the service. So hopefully that can be worked to your advantage.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
And just to piggyback on that, it's like anything else, persistence be the, because there are the resources there, but unfortunately, you have to just keep making the calls, show up, and I'm an attorney, so that's what I do every day, not in this area always, but you have, as an attorney even, you have to just keep following up with everything, especially in COVID times, everything's slower, and people aren't always at their desk, they're not always, so.
And one more thing, as a woman veteran, I would say you call up the VA and say, can I speak to the Women Veterans Program Manager? Say, I'm a new vet, I'm a new vet, but I'm a veteran and I'm trying to, and she's there for that as well. So that's something else.
We have another question over here.
Hi, I just said thank you everybody for your time tonight. I just had a question. Is it Miss Marian? Would you please speak to the eligibility of volunteering for the Homefront program? What's expected for that?
Oh, sure, yes, so NAMI is, that's the, Andrew and I are both on the board. NAMI's a national program, and there is this group, not a group, but it's a training program for NAMI. So right now, I did the training virtually, and I was with other family members all across the country. And most of what Homefront does is help family members who have a loved one in the service with a mental health condition. And I was there as a board member just to get the training. But it's, but you can, if you can call NAMI Westchester, we can let you know and get on our mailing list. Marie can speak to this also. We can let you know when we're gonna be offering it next. Because it's free of charge, and right now it's virtual, so even if there's one offered on the West Coast, you can join. I did one that was in the Pacific Northwest, and so I was doing it like at 9 at night, but it was but it was very helpful, and it teaches. It's for family members with loved ones, and just to know how to help themselves and help not escalate. What's the training you need to understand mental health conditions, how to understand PTSD, understand anxiety, understand depression from a family member's perspective. So it was very helpful. It's all free, and it's but it has to be a time when it's offered. And I'm hoping, I haven't been trained as a facilitator, but I do hope to.
I think you should experience it. It's not only for active duty, it's also for veterans. What I enjoy the most is that it connects people from all around the country. And I'm sorry, ma'am. You mentioned, I didn't get your name. Yes.
Oh, Anne.
So, like Ms. Ann said, North Carolina, Texas is highly saturated with veterans. So you have just, I find it very rich because you have all these families from all over, from areas that are highly saturated with veterans, and you have just a very different experience than you would here in New York. And you learn so much. I'm a veteran, and to hear caregivers speak about their husbands and their wives, because there was one lucky guy, and also active duty, it's fascinating. And it also brings things into context. If you are not someone that has served, it's a great experience, and I think that's the best approach when it comes to volunteering for Homefront.
Thank you.
But there is some training involved, so stay in touch with NAMI, and we can definitely connect you with the next time if the training is offered, and then you take it from there.
Great, and then the other quick question I had was, will the VA provide on-site enrollment? I know that we're School of Social Work in New York City, and so we're working with some veteran organizations in New York City, and one of the issues that we know about is the underutilization. So if we could bring the VA to the site where the veterans are living in a single room occupancy kind of program, will the VA come to us and help us do the enrollment on site, even if it's just a basic soft enrollment, just to introduce the services and say, you're eligible for this, come, let's sign on. Let's just talk about it, let me let you know what's here. Do you know if that happens?
You better ask Ann. Ann is.
I'm dying.
Welcome back to the fold, Ann.
Yeah.
Welcome back.
You're giving us a wrong name.
I'm sorry?
You're giving us a wrong name. So
Yeah. No, I mean, what it brought to mind was, and again, it's a few years ago, but there were sort of these put together outreach teams, and they would literally go to areas where, veterans may be, and you could, of course, all you need is a laptop, and you can certainly register somebody.
And you coming over?
I'm out of the system, but yeah.
Okay, thank you so
But
much.
are you in the Bronx or in?
Yes.
Yeah.
And in Manhattan, we have
Oh.
a building that has 120 and another building that has 100.
So,
Who are
Damien can help with that. Damien's our outreach person.
Damien Guzman is here.
I'll go.
All right, we'll get it. Thank you.
There's another avenue also starting. The Sierra Club is organizing the New York State Outdoor RX Coalition in cooperation with the VA. And these are one of the barriers in New York, transportation for many veterans, particularly from New York City. And the outdoors are really underutilized by the veteran community. I think Sal gave the example of going on a bike ride and connecting with friends. So here's the former commissioner of the Department of Veteran Services in New York said, if you don't want veterans to come, put mental health in the title. So I've always wanted to be involved with something that offered some fun, fly fishing, canoeing, that sort of thing, where veterans can get together and find fellowship and then talk to each other in a guided event.
Oh, that's lovely. All right, we'll have a word.
Where they can support one another.
Sure, I'll definitely circle back.
That's at the Sierra Club, right?
Yes, it's the Outdoor RX Coalition.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
My name is Shanae. I'm actually the council member here in the city of Yonkers. And I'm sorry I came in late, but I'm happy that I got to hear you sing and hear some of your speech. That was great. I guess I have more of a comment and I guess a little bit of a question. My comment is thank you, first of all, to NAMI for hosting this event. Mental health to me is something that's very important. I know a lot of people in my personal life that struggle from all kinds of different mental health issues. And so I think it's good to have an organization that's focused on this all year round and not just doing like a mental health thing because it's the month of, right? It's just, right? We do see a lot of that. But I really think it's great to have a forum like this. This is my first time being at any VA, at any veterans space and seeing this conversation. So I think it's absolutely needed. So thank you for that. Yeah. And I guess my question is, I think Matthew alluded to it earlier about, the government not, giving money to if we don't see that the money is being used, right? So my question is, what else can local government someone like me that's at the table do to really assist our veterans that are struggling? How do we even, reach out and know where to put the resources? And I ask that because we have a veterans department in the city of Yonkers, and I've done some events with our veterans department trying to bring out especially the women who served and really bring a community for them, because whenever I go to events for veterans, I see mostly men, and we know that both men and women and everybody else serve in our army, in our armed forces. So my question is, what more can the local government do to both just assist our veterans in general, especially those who are struggling with mental health?
Can I answer that, please? This is one of my pet peeves.
I hope you all can share something.
The government has the responsibility to assign an able-bodied person to lead the Veterans Agency. You cannot politically assign friends that have no clue of what contemporary veterans or combat veterans experience. You have to bring someone that is educated or willing to educate themselves on contemporary issues and women's issues. You cannot have friends of friends lead a veteran service agency and be basically a no-show job. We need our services, and we need someone able, intelligent, or at least with a clue of what we need as far as services and advocacy. But as long as people are being politically assigned to those positions, no one's gonna advocate for us. We're gonna fall by the wayside. 22 a day will never go down. And this is why things haven't changed, frankly and honestly. You can't leave it all up on the VA. It is everyone's job, including VSOs. People love opening nonprofits. No one wants to get their hands dirty, and they're not held accountable. Okay, that's fine. But at least my taxpayer money for a veteran service agency, at least that should operate properly. I mean, in this county, we have a shortage of veteran service benefit officers. How is that possible? You're paying all these people. Where are they? So as long as you don't have able-bodied people, you're not gonna see the women, and you're gonna see very few contemporary vets come out. Because then we become a punchline and a photo op.
So
Look what I did, and nothing is really ever done.
yeah, so I unfortunately, the city council, we don't get to appoint, the head of the departments, but my question, if, outside of, let's say we hired an able-bodied, veteran, which I think the current, for Yonkers anyway, the current person is a veteran, that's leading our veteran services, but how do we get the information or to those veterans like yourself, to bring you up, it should just offer the help that's necessary.
There's a good book you might wanna read. It's short, but it's very dense. It's called Trying Hard Is Not Good Enough.
Okay.
And it explains why government can't solve social problems. And essentially, if you use IBMF statistics from VetConnect, or 65,000 calls from veterans or family members, they request 4 services. Human beings have multiple issues. Governments always divide things in silos. So now the individual has to go to 4 different agencies to find the services they need. If government would report homelessness, how many people are homeless, define homelessness. Does that include couch surfing?
Sure, but yeah.
I have a friend that did research in New York for the state. I haven't, it's 2 years before you see any reports from the surveys that go out. But he was telling me that an average night out, because he was interviewing homeless veterans at night, he'd see about 10 people who were homeless. He'd see more people who were homeless, but he'd see about 10 veterans. 7 of them he knew because they qualified them, had HUD-VASH vouchers, but they're still on the street. The city, I don't know how the city counts their numbers, New York City. But those are important statistics, because the longer people are homeless, unemployed, have bad paper and legal issues that aren't resolved, the higher, those same qualifications for wellness, referred to as the social determinants of health, are the same criteria to evaluate suicide risk. So there's
Directly aligned, yeah.
it's a good connection, but if the city would report these things and be accountable for moving those numbers down and inform the community that provides services and educate the community that provides services how to do it better, I think we'd have a better service system for our community.
Just another thought on this, because we're in New York and a few people have mentioned this, and these are just my thoughts, but there aren't as many veterans as they say are in other states, and I think we have to elevate the status of veterans, because we always are hearing the negatives, and not that this all isn't true, 22 a day, homelessness, etc., but these are the bravest people, the most competent people, the best trained we have in the country, and we have to not just stereotype. I think that's another thing, and that can be a PR campaign, because I look at, when I went with my son enlisted 2 years ago, I was standing in awe of these 19-year-old men and women who were just willing to put their lives on the line. And you see so few people, they told me it was less than 1% in the country, and so few people are willing to put their lives on the line, or willing to step up and serve. It's always, me, advocacy, which is okay too. Self-advocacy is good, but I think we need to show what veterans can do and do to hire veterans, and just talk about all the positives as well. So that's just one thing I just noticed as a military parent. That I don't know how to.
I do just want to comment, because it came up a couple of times that New York does not have that many veterans, but there's 45 states that have fewer veterans than New York. So we're pretty high up there on the list.
I think certainly what I was thinking was the utilization in certain parts, certainly for
That,
VA
I think
services.
we have a saturation of service providers here that other states don't have.
Exactly, and we have a more liberal, generous, social, if you will, medical, well, not a system, but certainly opportunity through, New York State Medicaid, which I think people access, and in other states they wouldn't have that degree of service. So, but yeah, you're right. I mean, I think Long Island has one of the highest saturation of veterans in the country. So that is a good point.
You had another question?
No, I just wanted to make a comment about educating the community. I think that that's so important, because, New York City isn't a place like, I lived in Washington DC, so I know where Bethesda, Maryland is, at Walton City, but so it's not like when you go anywhere that, there's so many veterans and there's so many active duty members, and it's like, you can walk up to anybody on the street and they're either in the service or retired, or, but in New York, it doesn't look the same. So at least if you educate the community, then those people who touch those people can give them the information, versus, when you're in an area like Norfolk, Virginia, where there's 17 million military bases and everybody can go to any site, it doesn't look like that in New York City. Even here, you can't access healthcare the way you can in those other areas, because there's no base, there's no military hospital that even family members can go to. So you're kind of scrambling around trying to navigate so many things. You have to be able to educate the community, because nobody else, the people around them don't understand what they're going through, so they may not feel comfortable going in and having that conversation.
O'Connell, you have a question? Jim,
Oh,
did you want to ask something?
how you doing, everybody? Jim, I'm a Afghan veteran. Yes, and it is, me walking down the block, no one would realize that I'm a veteran if I'm not wearing this hat or something showing it, you know what I mean? But, and usually I don't. And I think the last thing I was thinking of was, I think you mentioned, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to point at you.
Me?
Yeah, you.
Yeah, Joe.
I didn't mean, no disrespect.
No,
no
problem.
I can't see your name from here, it's too small.
If I stood up, would that help?
I think when I raised my hand at the time, I think the question was, most veterans do not like to come to places that have anything to have to do with mental health. Because we always look at each other or look at ourselves as being strong. Females too. No disrespect for anybody. Male and female, strong, mentally, we did what we had to do, and, and went through it, right? And we don't want to look at it like as a mental health issue. It makes us feel weak in a way, in general. And yes, it is actually, I went through a lot of things lately, and like, to tell you the truth, like you said, programs that work or programs like I just was in the fall season, PGA Hope. I'm pretty sure you guys all heard it or whatever. You know, it's a golf thing, and it was great because I met a lot of veterans, and we just, you know, we connected, and we had a great time. You know, we were playing golf and doing things, but we also connected on a mental, and we grew a friendship together. And then we ended up finding out different mental issues that we all have. And then just growing from there, and we're still in contact with each other. But it's been a little, before the question I don't know where I'm going with it, in a way, I'm sorry.
It's alright.
Don't be sorry.
Don't be sorry.
But that is one of the great programs, like certain programs like that, and I heard fly fishing programs and stuff like that. Those are great programs to have for us that make us, people like join us and just break us out of our shell in a way. Not to have that feeling of, I gotta be strong, I gotta have a barrier. You know, I can't show this weakness that we look at it as a weakness. You know? And it's not a weakness, you're actually more a person if you can admit to it in a way, and it takes a lot. It takes a lot more to admit to it than to put that barrier up.
Yep.
You know?
That's a big step, being able to say that. Because, yeah, you're not wrong. The military does a real good job at teaching us how to be war fighters.
And it's great at breaking you down and then building you back up to where they want you at.
Yeah.
But then you become that way. And I got 20 years in the military. I just retired this month, actually. I'm not looking for that, but I mean, thank you. Thank you very much. But I mean, and it was, you know, as much as I love the military, as much as I love to leave it too, to be with my family at the same time. You know? So I don't.
Thank you. And Andrea was involved in a panel in November where there's a Hudson Valley reintegration program, and she can get you information also, or we can as well. But we're spending time building canoes, but the work is being done while you're building the canoe, and it's a local situation.
He's on my Christmas list. We know each other.
I think,
I think you really gave, I was gonna say thank you, Jim. You actually gave me some ideas of what more we can do to help veterans. You literally just said, create events, meditative events like fly fishing for veterans. That way you guys can connect and you can, you know, build community with each other again and break down those barriers. So that's a really good idea. Thank you.
that's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah.
And I couldn't put that into words, but I was just about to say that Joe's exactly hit it later. Do you want veterans not to show up? Talk about mental health.
Right.
But if you say, I'm giving away free coffee and donuts and a free round of golf, I'll be there with boots on Sunday.
Blue Star Families does a lot of outdoor events as well with the, right?
Yes, we're working on it, yeah, exactly, yeah. It's important for families as well, definitely.
Yeah.
The coalition that I'm now part of is, we've already talked to 53 organizations in the state who are willing to participate. Certainly we have to grow the coalition, but the whole idea of the coalition is to reduce the barriers for veterans and their families to the out of doors. I mean, transportation is one issue, cost is another issue. I mean, even if you're driving yourself someplace, if you don't have a car, you gotta rent one. If you're watching your budget, you still have tolls to deal with. These are the kinds of things that the Sierra Club and the Outdoor Arts Coalition is trying to do. You brought up something, this is one of the things that still drives me nuts, you know. I was a Vietnam veteran, so I was a baby killer and a merchant of death when I came home. So I didn't tell anybody who was gonna raise their head for that? But here's a weird kind of comparison. right? I don't mean it in a disparaging way, but it's just an interesting parallel. If you ask someone 15 or 20 years ago, do you know anyone who identifies with the LGBT community? They'd probably say no. If you ask the same people today, they'd say, oh, my boss, my neighbor, my friend. Veterans don't self-identify largely for the reasons I didn't. They don't want to be tagged negatively because the only thing that most of the population knows about veterans is everything they see in the newspaper, which is never any good news. And only 1% of our entire population has a connection to the military. And then on the other hand, the public's afraid to ask, or don't want to know. For me, it's annoying for someone to ask me if I'm a veteran, and when I say yes, say I didn't serve. I didn't ask. I don't care. It was my choice, you know. Or thank you for your service. I can think of more expressions for someone who sneezed than I can for how to greet a veteran. And when I introduced Team Red, White, and Blue to the New York Cycle Club, the board member said, well, what do we say to them? I said, well, how about, that's a cool bike. Where'd you get it? How many gears? Why don't you welcome them like everybody else? But if we don't identify in some way, share that, we're veterans, no one's gonna know what kind of regular people we are. You know, it's weird. We're probably having drinks with people, you know, a beer or fishing or cycling or doing something, and we have no idea that they're a veteran. And if we did, we'd have a totally different idea about who veterans are. Just a thought.
Yeah, because ever since my son enlisted, I've noticed in every movie, the veteran always has PTSD. It just, you know, not everyone, but it seems like that's how it's portrayed in the media. And it's just not, I'm not saying PTSD isn't real, it is. But I mean, it's just hard to, we have to change that. And part of it is reaching out to families as well and getting families involved. And not just veterans, but also active duty as well. Because you feel very alone in New York. When my son enlisted, I was the only person of any of my friends whose son would even consider them. You know, so it's, you know, and I didn't know, that's why I reached out to Blue Star Mothers, because when you're a military mom, you need other military moms, because no one else really understands that, you know, our family members. So, so we have to both bond together and change the narrative to some degree. Not that there isn't awareness about all these, but the success stories, the brilliance, the music, everything that Saul has spoken about. He's a vibrant, amazing person. That's what we want to show. You know, just an observation, because I think it's about, I think this last stat I read was about 10 to 14% of veterans do have PTSD. It's not as high as you think, but I don't know. I could be wrong on that. And I'm not saying it's not saying it's not real, and the 22 a day is real. But part of it is that unfortunate stigma, which it just shouldn't be at all.
Just clarification on, and I have no problem. Yeah, a lot of military people have PTSD. You know, we have issues depending on where they were and what they did in life, and it's not their fault. I think a lot of people, the misconception of it, in a way, is that, like the public wise, think our PTSD or whatever is terrible. So they get scared of us in a way, which ain't the real case, you know? That's, you know, and it's portrayed in movies in a way like where we're gonna do a lot of bad things, you know, in that sense. Which ain't the case and ain't the real reason for it. You know, I mean, we have our own reasons for our PTSD, and that's background issues, you know? And I think that should be clarified in a way, you know, in general with the public, and, you know, that PTSD from a veteran ain't meaning that he's gonna do something horrible. He's just that he has some side things that he has to deal with. and it has nothing to do with the public or with anybody else. You know, thank you.
That's a good point. I do talk a lot about that as well. When I talk to civilian crowds, I didn't really mention it too much today because I figured everybody kind of understood. But when I talk to civilian crowds, I tell them, if you've ever been in a car accident and freaked out behind the wheel 2 weeks later, that's post-traumatic stress. Like, you don't have to go through war to have post-traumatic stress, and post-traumatic stress isn't this giant thing that's going to make you fly off the handle either. It's a much more human reaction than we give it credit for. But unfortunately, because of media, news, and all that stuff, it is viewed as sort of the boogeyman of mental health disorders, I guess.
Yeah. But it's also curable.
But it's, yeah.
And I think that's part of what the Homefront does, is educate families, so families understand what it is and understand how to manage. My father definitely had PTSD, and nobody knew at the time. He was in the military for 20 years, and he was pilot in a plane that crashed, and he almost died. He had that survivor guilt. But I didn't know that as a child, but it would have been helpful to know, perhaps as a teenager, why he was always so quiet, why he had these dark moods, why, nobody, you blame yourself when you're the child of a military person sometimes, because why are they being so distant? Or why are they getting angry? Or why? And he was perfectly, extremely successful and a wonderful father, but there were also times when I just wondered why he would be so distant, So I think educating families is part of that too, just understanding.
So, I know that y'all talked about different things. I don't know if you each had the opportunity to give a 30-second commercial about your own organization, so if you want to, let's start with Matt, and if there's services that you want people to know that are available.
Thank you. New York Presbyterian has 3 sites that we operate out of. One is at Columbia's University Medical Campus in Washington Heights. We have one at Weill Cornell's Medical Campus on the upper east side of Manhattan. And then we also have one up here in Westchester as well. Bloomingdale Road, is that right?
Yes, that's right.
That's our satellite office, which is not utilized all the time, but we are trying to get some people in there more often to try to help out in the community up here. Our clinic is free for veterans. We have talk therapies available, all of the scientifically evidence-based proven things that have worked, the best therapies that are available out there right now. We also have 2 large research programs at Columbia and at Weill Cornell. We just had a very successful equine for PTSD study that was about 5 years long. We had some great results in. We're going to be adding that to our menu of services at Columbia. We have a military sexual trauma therapy study that's happening right now at Weill Cornell. I've got information about all these things, so come grab a flyer if anyone's interested. And like I said, the clinic is free. If you served 1 day in the military, you qualify. We have very loose restrictions on who qualifies. We also see family members, adult family members, and caregivers of military veterans as well.
Any era?
I'm sorry?
Any era?
Any era, 1 day in service, combat, non-combat, you qualify.
Alan?
So the Vet Center program is no cost, confidential counseling for active duty service members, veterans, family members. We do individual counseling, group counseling. The Vet Center program has specific eligibility criteria, and what happens is if you're not eligible for the Vet Center, we usually refer to him or someone else. The Vet Center program has been around since 1979. The White Plains Vet Center, White Plains Vet Center has been around since 1982. I've not been there since 1982. And so we have really expanded how we've been trying to reach like some of the veteran populations that have not come to treatment. So military sexual trauma, that's like a focus. We have groups for that. We have men's groups and women's groups. And we've been doing a lot more ideas about different kind of recreation to do in the community. Like during COVID, we had during COVID, what am I talking about? But in the height of things, we had like a walking group. So we were taking meeting vets who were isolated, take them outside, and take them walking. And we work closely. So for the Vet Center program, we're part of VA healthcare, but we're not part of the hospital. So the reason I bring that up is we have a lot of veterans in the community who don't want to go to the VA because they don't, maybe they're in law enforcement or corrections, and they don't want anything on a medical record. So if they come to the vet center, it's confidential. So we have records, and we're all licensed professionals doing counseling, but it's got an extra firewall of confidentiality. And we won't release any of that information unless it's life or death situation. We don't release anything. So if you know, and I really want to make sure this gets out, if you know like law enforcement or corrections or someone who's got very sensitive background and they're kind of worried, you know, I can't go to the VA, I can't go to the hospital, I can't go to the outpatient clinic, you know, send them to the vet center. And if you're not sure if you're eligible for counseling at the vet center, you still send your folks, or if it's you, give us a call. I got some brochures in the front, and I'll connect you with someone else here on this panel or another organization if we can help you.
Does that also include active duty?
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yes. And also with the National Defense Authorization Act last year, they changed our eligibility standards. So now we're actually providing counseling to any National Guard it's been activated for any emergency. So a lot of the National Guard that are activated for the COVID mission in New York City last year, working with mortuary services, we've been treating them. And also as of this year, January 1st, we're behavioral health for active reserves. So we're seeing a lot of different populations at the vet center. So if you're not sure if the person's eligible, send them over. We'll figure it out.
Jeff?
Great, the Outdoor RX program, it will officially launch in the spring. At this point, we're gaining coalition members. When it launches, you'll be able to go to one location, search by county, type of outdoor activity, the costs associated, whether you need to be an expert at something or not, just about every sort of search that you can make so that when you show up, you have free access to that activity and you're already registered. The main focus for the Outdoor RX program is to make the outdoors available to all veterans and family members and active duty service members. But the focus is for those marginalized communities that have not availed themselves of the outdoor. We'd like to see every veteran have the benefit of the common benefits of being outdoors.
WoundedWarriorProject.org, if you're a post 9/11 veteran, unfortunately that's all we serve is post 9/11, but we work with other organizations, so we have the resource center you can call, as well as WoundedWarriorProject.org, and you can get signed up that way. Or if you just, if you are not a post 9/11 veteran, but you are a veteran, you still need services, you can also call the I just said it, the hotline, the benefits line, and they'll get you hooked up with an organization that does help non-post 9/11 veterans. So that's where you can find WP.
Andrea Molina, FSW, Family Services of Westchester, the Vets of Vet program. We are peer-to-peer suicide prevention, and this is my 10th year at this program. We've added the peer-to-peer caregiver family member component on there because we recognize that we can only go so far without addressing the needs of our caregivers and our family members. The main idea for our program is socializing, and we're trying to beg Joe Hunt to take us into his outfit, do some outdoor RX stuff. We during COVID and now we host a lot of online programming, which also gives us the opportunity to offer our programming to people outside Westchester County. Though we're not supposed to leave the county, we do. We will never turn a veteran away, no matter discharge status, era, or a family member. And we used to have heavy case management, but we've just brought that down because it's just me. So nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you all at your service.
Thank you, and thank you all for coming out. I'm Marion, I'm on the board with Andrea of NAMI Westchester, and I recently joined Blue Star Mothers of the Hudson Valley, and we're just starting out, and our mission really is to support military parents, military family members in supporting our service members, and we support each other as well, because there's so many important things that family members can do and need to learn and need to do, and it's not an easy journey for family members either, you know, and I think children need support, you know, mothers need support, everybody needs support. So that's one of our missions. We have a bingo game this Saturday, which one of our missions is to raise money for suicide prevention in among service members and so thank you all for coming out.
Well, don't close out just yet. I want to introduce Louise Ellis, our board president. She's going to say a few words, and maybe Sal, would you play us a happy song yet?
And while Louise is getting ready, I'll just mention, I'm Marie Constantine, I'm the executive director of NAMI Westchester, for those of you who weren't here earlier. I have an outdoor idea for you. So Andrea and Marion both mentioned that they are our board members, and all board members form walk teams for our annual mental health awareness walk. So that'll be May 14th. So if you're a family member, you can join Marion's team. If you're a vet, you can join Andrea's team. And come out, and it's a really fun day. We'll have some music, we'll have some fun, we'll do some walking, and we'll see the spot of the Garden of Remembrance that we're planning in that park too.
Super. So Louise Ellis is our board president for NAMI.
Good evening. Thank you all for being here. Sal for his inspiring story, and to all the vets in the room, thank you for your service when in the military, but I also want to thank you for your service post-military. What Sal, you are doing with Wounded Warriors is so important, and to bring your story and your inspiration and the peer-to-peer programs that you are involved in, because this is what we need to do. We need to get veterans to come out and help veterans. And for those of us who have come from a military family, one of the differences that I've been hearing tonight, you know, years ago, they didn't talk about their experiences. You know, I've had uncles in World War II, and once they came back, they didn't want to talk about it. Part of helping remove the stigma is to talk about your experiences, getting the help you need. And to the gentleman over here, speaking up, thank you, because that is a sign of strength. And yes, mental illness is a biological illness, it's a physical illness. And when you talk about PTSD, it's talking about getting help to understand what is going on with our brain when it implants from traumatic events. One example was given, it could be a simple car accident, which isn't so simple, and you'll have a reaction could be years later as you're driving. It stays with us, get the help, but very importantly, please, what we're doing here tonight is so important. And being a member of NAMI, I also want to say not to forget our families, because this happens not just to the person who's overseas, it happens to the families while you're gone and when you come home. And with NAMI, we are an organization that reaches out to families, because mental illness of any kind happens not just to the family member, it affects the whole family. So I think by talking and doing what we're doing, reaching out to organizations, trying to get government to support programs is so critical, and your voices are really so important. So join us and come walk with us on May 14th. Bring yourselves, your families, join a team, and it's all about, that's the only fundraiser we do, and I want to say all our programs are free. And we want to be able to continue to support veterans and all families, because we want to remove the stigma of mental illness and bring it out in the open. Thank you for being here. You are all wonderful, and thank you to the panelists. I really appreciate everything you've said and what you're doing here today and in your work. And again, the service that you're providing post your military time is so critical, so it continues. So thank you for all your service and everything you do. Have a good evening.
Thank you to our commander for hosting it tonight.
Hey guys, I just want to say thank you and welcome to the Yonkers City Post 1666. This is the Community Center for Americana. Here at 1666, we are instrumental in making sure that we take care of veterans and military support. We have a post-service officer, if anybody needs. We push legislative advocacy, military and community services, youth programs, scholarships. We also do special events and patriotic celebrations and memorials. Again, I want to say thank you for you guys coming out here and helping out our vets and talking to us. Well, you guys, thank you very much for coming. Councilwoman, we have our stuff first. We have a bunch of stuff working with organizations that we would love to come up and sit down in your office and go over. If I can give you a call sometime next week. Thank you. Thanks, guys.
All right, Sal.
All right. So I promised a happy song. This was my first single off my album. You can find it everywhere on iTunes, all that stuff. There I go, just throwing pics everywhere.
You're nervous?
Spinning round the sun. It's a carousel ride, it's a race we run. Tick tock, no, the clock don't stop for anyone. Thinking about it all, but it's way too much to get a handle on. Spinning wheels we can feel we're not moving at all. But when we go round, baby, this dusty dance hall floor. Looking at you, looking at me, nothing else matters anymore. Where we are now, we may never touch the ground. No, I don't feel a thing, and I don't hear a sound. Moving around and round and round and round. I don't care enough to care at all. We're floating underneath this disco ball about anything or anyone else but you. All over again. It's like the very first time, every time we spin. Out of control, out of mind to fall. So we go round. Baby, this dusty dance hall floor. Looking at you, looking at me, nothing else matters anymore. Where we are now, we may never touch the ground. No, I don't feel a thing, I don't hear a sound. Moving around, round, 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 it round. Bring you where the life we share, we're forever bound. So climb aboard this old wood floor if you ever down. We'll go round, baby, this dusty dance hall floor. Looking at you, looking at me, nothing else matters anymore. Where we are now, we may never touch the ground. No, I don't feel a thing, I don't hear a sound. so much. And that's why I don't get nervous.
Yeah, no. We had a girlfriend. Oh. You know, I'll still very much, in my program I do this, we got to go to North Carolina. So I was running some wellness program and brought together as a component in
It comes to the same.
That's perfect. I mean, as we get up and running again, virtual world, sometimes veteran and volunteer program, which is out there. I will. I think it would be good to be part of that. Not that it's fighting skiing or canoeing, but it is outdoor. Okay, I'll let you know. Take care. Oops, let me get my water. Where are you, calendar?
Wow, what's up, buddy? Thanks, man. Keep on moving on, man. Yeah.